The day after I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on. I remember one thing, I had a very hard moment in that part of my life, but I assure you in that age, I could have put that clown in the first round, but I sold my soul, and I'm ashamed of it.
Is it true that you made $170 million from this fight?
I made a lot of money, the most money I've made ever.
60 million households, Jake.
250 million people. Bro, that is so... It's all downhill from here.
No, for sure.
I peaked.
How do you think the Jake Paul-Anthony Joshua fight plays out?
I don't know. I want to make sure. I believe it once I see him in the ring.
If Paul starts his boxing career earlier, could Jake Paul have been a champion?
The ending was never really in doubt. When Anthony Joshua stepped in, he didn't just beat Jake Paul, he shattered the story people were being sold. What followed wasn't just a knockout moment but the collapse of a carefully built fantasy. Even Mike Tyson, without saying much, seemed to confirm what many suspected: spectacle had been chosen over genuine combat. And now the sport is facing an uncomfortable moment it can't simply ignore. This doesn't feel real because, in a way, it wasn't meant to be. To see how things reached this point, you have to look past the idea of a fair fight. What played out was a drawn-out performance, one that finally fell apart the instant an actual heavyweight treated it like a real contest. The moment reality stepped in, the illusion couldn't survive, and everything snapped back into place.
I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I told y'all, they made Mike Tyson retract his statement on Twitter. They made him rewrite a post on top of deleting a post. Yeah, I told you that fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul was rigged. I told you that. I don't care what Mike Tyson is saying now, he have to do that to secure his money. He's still an investment for future exhibitions.
I can't shake the image of Tyson sitting ringside, watching Joshua take Paul apart. What showed on his face wasn't excitement or surprise, it looked more like awareness mixed with remorse. That specific kind of feeling that hits when you realize someone else just crossed a line you were expected not to. Every instinct Tyson ever built in the ring would have recognized exactly what was happening. And if you think that moment didn't land hard on him, you're kidding yourself. Here's the part people avoid because it's uncomfortable to admit: Tyson always had the ability to stop Jake Paul if he truly wanted to. Everyone there understood that, including Jake himself. That's why Joshua's finish carries more weight. It exposes that the limits everyone talked about were artificial, while the risk was always genuine. Once that realization slips into the open, there's no way to contain it. No amount of rewritten explanations can put it back. When Joshua put Paul down in the fifth, it didn't just end a fight, it changed how every previous matchup was viewed. Suddenly, old footage didn't look the same anymore. You could almost sense people replaying the Tyson fight in their heads, all arriving at the same unspoken questions. Why didn't it happen then? Why was the hesitation there? Why did this outcome feel so different? And once those questions start repeating, they don't fade away.
Sit down on a podcast one time, and he talked about it. He said, I don't want to do an exhibition against Floyd Mayweather. Yeah. He said, I'm only doing real fights. And of course, I can't get up high in weight, but I'll fight him in a real fight at the weight that I'm at. But Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's going to be bad.
People keep labeling this as a simple mismatch, but that word smooths over what really happened. This wasn't imbalance, it was reality snapping back into place after being held off for far too long. Joshua didn't charge in recklessly. He waited, calculated, and closed in with patience. That's the frightening part. When an experienced fighter slows things down, it means he already sees the outcome. And Jake could feel that certainty tightening around him with every round. By the time the sixth arrived, it felt less like action and more like a ruling being delivered. Not just because of the strike itself, but because of what it represented. That moment didn't just cause damage, it removed the unspoken allowance that let this whole situation pass as legitimate competition. The instant serious injuries become part of the discussion, the humor evaporates. Anyone still treating it lightly at that point is either detached or refusing to be honest. What really lingers is Eddie Hearn's comment about one man offering Jake an entry point and another potentially marking the end. That wasn't hype or exaggeration, it sounded final. Promoters don't frame things that way unless they genuinely believe the chapter is closing. And if you think that message wasn't replaying in Jake's mind while lying under bright medical lights, then you're overlooking the mental impact entirely.
Eddie, I want to follow with you because when this fight was first announced, you had said something to the effect of this would end Jake Paul's career. After what you saw tonight, do you think that Jake should continue to box, or what do you think the future holds for him?
Yeah, look, I really take my hat off. I mean, we have to see if it is a broken jaw. Those injuries are very difficult to come back from. But as AJ said, like that last shot would have knocked out a lot of heavyweights. And I know he went down heavy, but you know, he was conscious on the floor. And I thought his game plan, although obviously very negative early on, which it had to be, was smart at times. And there were times where he held his feet and let his hands go. You know, it was a very one-sided fight. It was always going to be a one.
Watching Joshua dismantle the situation creates an unavoidable contrast. One person followed the plan that was laid out. The other ignored it completely. And history never treats those choices equally, no matter how large the paycheck was at the time. Call it a conspiracy if you want, but Tyson himself left the door open when he admitted he barely remembers the fight and woke up questioning why he even took part. That isn't the mindset of someone proud of what they did. That's the reaction of someone who knows they compromised something important. And regret like that doesn't fade, it amplifies. This part matters, so it's worth being clear. Joshua didn't need to explain himself afterward. There was nothing to clarify. The result spoke for itself, and the absence of commentary only made it louder. When nothing is said, and yet everyone understands, it means the reality is too plain to dress up or redirect. And somewhere, every influencer-turned-fighter watching that unfold felt a sudden weight hit their stomach, whether they are willing to admit it or not.
Are you in pain?
Yeah, but it's not from like talking.
Talk to me about what your jaw feels like, because you got
It's like a baseball in there.
two plates?
It just feels like
4 titanium plates.
4 titanium plates. How many do you have?
Just 1.
This is a question no one wants to face, because it shakes the foundation of the whole operation. If a single genuine heavyweight can unravel years of hype in just 6 rounds, it makes you wonder how unstable the whole system really was. Feeling uneasy about that? That's exactly the point. Behind the scenes, people are rushing to manage the fallout and control what this could mean.
Oh no, I don't remember the fight that much. I kind of blanked out a little. Listen, know what I remember? Coming back from the first round, and then the next day I remember Jake is doing some kind of, I don't know, what was he doing at the ring?
Oh yeah, a little bow at the end, he bowed.
And that's the last thing I remember. You know, but the day after the fight, right after the day after, I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? You know, I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on.
What did you think of Jake's power, man, when you were in there?
I keep replaying the image of Tyson seeing the news about the broken jaw. You can't argue with biology. No amount of marketing can rewrite the reality of an injury. Physical proof like that forces a reckoning. Every time you held back, every punch you didn't throw, comes into focus. It's hard to believe it's real, unless regret is already hitting him far harder than he's letting anyone see. Here's a thought worth sitting with. If Tyson is openly admitting that money influenced results, how many other fights are about to be re-examined in the court of public opinion? Once trust starts cracking, it spreads quickly, and boxing has always relied on faith, which is now bleeding away. Another striking thing was Joshua's composure. Calm fighters are often the most dangerous and the most genuine. His poise wasn't about chasing glory, it felt like executing a necessary correction. And corrections rarely stop at one person, they ripple outward. So the real question is, who's going to feel exposed next?
Hoping after this Floyd fight, maybe we can have a rematch. He did well, but I want to try it again.
Is that something that you would be interested in terms of righting the wrong and knocking him out?
Yes, I would. I would be interested.
This doesn't end with a flashy highlight or a post-fight soundbite because the silence afterward is telling. When everything suddenly goes quiet, it usually means someone is scrambling behind the scenes, rewriting deals, and trying to bury inconvenient truths. I don't trust that calm, not for a second, because the situation is still unfolding, and something far more consequential is coming. When it hits, this knockout might end up feeling like a mere warning shot. Looking back, the outcome seems almost inevitable, like the sport itself had grown tired of pretending and finally snapped back to reality. 4 years, the line between spectacle and genuine competition had been stretched dangerously thin, and Joshua just happened to be standing at the breaking point. Confidence crossed into arrogance in ways no one noticed, and that miscalculation is what set everything up. Not the ambition, not the money, but the idea that reality could be negotiated with enough hype and audience attention. Watching this unfold in real time is unsettling because it exposes just how fragile the trust between fans and fighters really is. Once that trust cracks, you start questioning everything. How many past moments were authentic, and how many were carefully staged to protect a story? Joshua didn't just win, he reintroduced consequences. And consequences don't trend well online, but they stick with fighters long after the cameras and tweets are gone. There's a stark contrast here between preparation and promotion. Preparation happens quietly. Promotion demands noise. And when those two forces collide, it's always the quiet, methodical work that prevails. Gravity doesn't need to announce itself, it just reminds you it was never impressed by hype. It's also sobering to see how normalized it became to treat real fighters as plot devices rather than people with decades of experience and instincts forged through pain. Even legends aren't immune. Tyson himself shows how the machinery of spectacle and money can pull anyone in. Rarely does a single moment reshape the hierarchy of respect in a sport, but that knockout did. The quiet professionals regained credibility, and the loudest voices faded. Every replay of that fight carries weight, not for the strike itself, but for what it represents. A line drawn between experience and showmanship, patience and bluster, reality and illusion. Pursuing true competition eventually brings you face to face with reality, and reality doesn't care about optics, timing, or brand. For fighters watching, the emotions are mixed. Relief that the sport defended itself and fear that the same spotlight could expose them if they misjudge the gap between confidence and competence. The aftermath is more consequential than the fight itself. Managers rethink strategies, matchmaking shifts, and fans recalibrate what they are willing to accept. Joshua's patience stood out. He didn't rush. He waited for the opening, something learnt only after years of being punished for impatience. His dismantling of Paul was precise, surgical, not chaotic, leaving no room to blame anything but oneself. Boxing needed this moment. Without periodic reality checks, the sport drifts toward pure theater, and theater without risk is empty, no matter how bright the lights. This is a quiet reckoning, not just for one fighter, but for an entire approach to selling fights. Audiences may still love spectacle, but they are reminded how much they value authenticity when it finally appears. Moving forward, the term crossover might be redefined. True respect between disciplines, not borrowed credibility. Psychological fallout may outlast physical injury, because doubt doesn't go away with conditioning or money. Admiration can turn to scrutiny in an instant. The crowd that once believed in the dream will dissect it mercilessly once it fails. There's no tidy ending here, only the sense that something fundamental has shifted, and the aftershocks are still coming. And the hardest part? This isn't the final chapter. Once a sport exposes a flaw this clearly, the next rupture could be louder, messier, and far less forgiving.